For 1,000 years, these walls had never fallen to a foreign enemy. They had turned back Persians, Avars, Arabs, and Rus. Behind them stood the last fragment of the Roman Empire, a city that still called itself Rome, 11 centuries after the first Caesar. But in the spring of 1453, a 21-year-old sultan arrived before them with the largest army the city had ever seen, and a weapon that had never existed before. In 53 days, the world would change forever. This is the story of the fall of Constantinople. To understand how it came to this, we must go back. The Roman Empire of the East, what historians call Byzantium, had once stretched from Spain to Syria. But centuries of war had bled it white. In 1204, the unthinkable, the soldiers of the Fourth Crusade, fellow Christians, sacked Constantinople itself, and the empire never truly recovered. By 1453, the Roman Empire had been reduced to almost nothing, the great city and a handful of lands beyond. On every side lay the territory of a young and hungry power, the Ottoman Empire. Its ruler was Constantine XI, the 57th and final emperor of the Romans. He commanded a city of perhaps 50,000 souls and an army of fewer than 7,000 men. 7,000 to defend 14 miles of walls. His enemy was Mehmed II. Just 21 years old, Mehmed had already been written off once by his own court as a weak and untested boy. He intended to prove them catastrophically wrong. Mehmed offered terms: surrender the city, and its people would be spared. Constantine refused. To surrender the city to you, he answered, is beyond my authority. We are all resolved to die, and we will not spare our lives. Mehmed was obsessed with one prize above all others. To take Constantinople would make him not just a sultan, but the heir to Rome itself. In 1452, on the European shore of the Bosphorus, he built a fortress in just 4 months. Its guns could sink any ship trying to reach the city. The Turks gave it a grimly fitting name, the Throat Cutter. Constantinople was now being strangled. But Mehmed's true masterstroke was a weapon. A Hungarian engineer named Orban built him a monster. A bronze cannon over 8 meters long, able to hurl a stone ball weighing nearly 1/3 of a ton. It took 60 oxen and 200 men to haul it to the walls. No fortification on earth had been designed to withstand it. On the 6th of April, 1453, the Ottoman army arrived. Perhaps 80,000 men, outnumbering the defenders more than 10 to 1. The defenders had one crucial advantage: the great iron chain across the mouth of the Golden Horn. As long as it held, the city's seawalls were safe, and supplies could still slip in. The emperor's greatest hope was a Genoese soldier of fortune, Giovanni Giustiniani, who had slipped into the city with 700 hardened fighting men and taken command of the most dangerous stretch of wall. Then the bombardment began. The great gun could fire only a few times a day, but each shot brought down stone that had stood for 1,000 years. And yet, each night, the people poured out to the breaches and rebuilt the walls with rubble, timber, and earth. By day, the gunners smashed them down. By night, the Romans raised them again. For 6 long weeks, the great guns thundered against the walls. The defenders grew fewer, their food ran short, and exhaustion crept into their bones. But still, they did not yield. On the 20th of April came a humiliation for the Sultan. 4 Christian ships fought their way through his entire fleet as Mehmed watched from the shore, riding his horse into the sea in fury. Beneath the earth, the war went on unseen. Ottoman miners dug tunnels to collapse the walls from below, until the defenders dug their own countermines and met them in the dark with fire and smoke. Far away, Christian Europe wrung its hands, but sent almost no help. The promised fleets never came. Constantinople would stand or fall alone. Mehmed needed to break the deadlock. If he could not force the chain, then he would go around it. In one of the most audacious feats in the history of war, his men laid a road of greased timber across the hills, and in a single night they dragged 70 ships overland and launched them inside the Golden Horn, behind the chain. At dawn, the defenders woke to a nightmare. The harbor they thought impregnable was full of enemy ships. Their pitiful numbers had to be stretched thinner still, and still, week after week, the walls held. In the captured waters of the Golden Horn, the two sides fought a savage war of fire ships and cannon by night, the dark water lit by the glow of burning galleys. To the exhausted defenders, the heavens themselves seemed to turn against them. A lunar eclipse dimmed the moon, and an eerie light was seen to flicker over the dome of Hagia Sophia. Many believed God himself had abandoned the city. In the Ottoman camp, Mehmed gathered his commanders. By ancient custom, he promised his soldiers 3 days to plunder the city. Its riches, he told them, would soon be theirs. By late May, both sides were exhausted. Mehmed resolved to stake everything on one final, overwhelming assault. On the night of the 28th, the defenders gathered in the great church of Hagia Sophia, Orthodox and Catholic, who had quarreled for centuries, praying together one last time. In the small hours of the 29th of May, the attack came. Mehmed threw in his men in waves, first the irregulars, then his Anatolians. Both were thrown back with terrible losses. The Romans, against all odds, were holding. Then Mehmed unleashed his last and best. The Janissaries, the Sultan's elite household soldiers, the finest infantry in the world. Then 2 disasters struck at once. A small gate had been left unlocked, and Ottoman troops poured through. At the same moment, the Genoese commander holding the breach was gravely wounded and carried away. His men began to break. The cry went up, "The city is taken!" And once the panic began, nothing could stop it. As his city fell around him, Constantine XI is said to have torn off his imperial insignia so that he might die not as an emperor, but as a soldier, and charged into the enemy. He was never seen again. The last emperor of the Romans vanished into legend. Later that day, Mehmed rode through the streets of the city he had dreamed of since boyhood and entered the Hagia Sophia. He was 21 years old. From this day he would be known as the Conqueror, and he claimed for himself the ultimate title, Caesar of Rome. Constantinople became Istanbul, capital of an empire that would dominate the eastern Mediterranean for 400 years. Greek scholars fled west, their ancient manuscripts feeding the fire of the Renaissance. And with the old roads east now closed, Europe's sailors began to seek another way, by sea. Within 40 years, one would stumble upon a new world. The Roman Empire, founded by Augustus, ruled from Constantinople for over 1,000 years, was finally gone. But the walls still stand, and on them you can still find the scars left by Orban's great cannon, the marks of the 53 days that ended the ancient world.